And then let's have a look at what's really coming through in the mainstream press at the moment.
OK, so the Mail here are discussing author John Grisham, who gave an interview to The Telegraph defending sex offenders, saying they are victims of a legal system gone crazy. He said, "We have prisons now filled with guys of my age, 60-year-old white men in prison, who've never harmed anybody, would never touch a child," Grisham told The Telegraph. But they got online one night, they started surfing around, probably had too much to drink or whatever, and pushed the wrong buttons, went too far and got into child porn. He was then questioned about the fact that viewing child porn fuels child abuse, and he responded to that by saying that sentences should still be lower for people who only download the indecent images of children.
We're now nibbling at the edges here. It's like age of consent, start off with 16 and then 15-year-olds are involved, so we better lower it to 14, and down we go, down we go. And now what we seem to have coming in is the nudging towards the fact that, well, of course, this is all normal and we should make it fully normal at law. And bring us into the BBC, of course.
Stephen Glover here has wrote a piece on how the BBC are preparing to install a plaque of honour for the late DJ John Peel on its John Peel wing at Broadcasting House. The plaque should have gone up actually in 2012, but the BBC held back due to damning allegations accusing Peel of having sex with underage girls on numerous occasions on BBC premises. But apparently the BBC is actually now planning to put back up this plaque. In this article, they are highlighting how many other BBC, so-called heroes and legends of the BBC have come into the spotlight and unstuck, but they are continuing, to make the BBC is continuing to make the same errors by still honouring this man. And apparently at age 26 he married a 15-year-old American girl called Shirley Ann Milburn, and he got her pregnant. And then when he was working over in Texas as a DJ, he recalled later on, giving an interview, he said about 13-year-old girls queuing up at the door. He said, "Well, of course I didn't ask for ID." He said, "All they wanted me to do was to abuse them sexually, which of course I was only too happy to do." And those are quotes directly from John Peel. And apparently in October 2012, Jane Niven alleged that she had a 3-month affair with Peel when she was just 15. And he was 30, and she became pregnant and had a very traumatic abortion. So all of these allegations up against John Peel, but the BBC still highlighting him as a hero. And I think they even still have a John Peel Day on the radio as well.
Yeah, big questions to be asked on the BBC. Pretty despicable organisation. So interesting to see it reporting on Rotherham.
Yeah, this is brief. The Chief Constable of Norfolk, Simon Bailey, has spoken to The Guardian, saying the scale of child abuse could be a lot larger than previously thought, and has called upon doctors and teachers to do more and play a bigger part in spotting signs of abuse. He went on to highlight how abuse had been ignored by agencies such as police and councils. And you picked up a bit more on this, didn't you?
Well, I did. If I just bring these in here, of course, the connection is the leading officer for the Association of Chief Police Officers, concerned with the issue of child abuse here. So he's warning the scale of the problem nationwide could be larger than previously thought. We don't know for sure, but we think it's tens of thousands of victims a year of this appalling crime. So here is the police casually saying, well, we've got massive crime going on, but we don't really know what's going on. So they've had years to work at it. And then we get this little twist. The bigger picture is that 90% of child sexual abuse takes place in the home, where crimes are being perpetuated upon victims by people they already know. Well, hang on a minute. If he doesn't know what's going on, which is the first statement, how is he able to say that 90% of the abuse is taking place in the home?
And I think we're finding it in care homes.
Well, this is the question. How many children are being abused in care homes? We got 1,400 in Rotherham to start off with. It looks like we're up into the thousands in Nottingham. We got North Wales. And yet this man is saying, oh, no, it's people abusing these children in the family environment. But he admits that police don't have the evidence. So this is a pack of lies, it's propaganda, and it's coming straight out of the Association of Chief Police Officers, who are the very people concentrating on gun owners instead of protecting the children. So if you follow it through, this is your Guardian article here. So the problem's bigger than previously thought. Oh, now we've got a figure, 600,000. Well, 600,000, and we're not seeing significant prosecutions. We haven't got any prosecutions over the children's homes. He thinks it's an appalling crime. 600,000.
Yeah. And we haven't got any prosecutions coming out of Westminster either.
So what are the police actually doing? Here we are, is all the comments. But it's this man's job. He's head of child abuse unit in ACPO. And we know the police are not fully investigating these crimes. We've seen this with Melanie Shaw in Nottingham as a recent example. So it seems to us it's time for the public to bring men like Mr. Bailey to book, because either this man is incompetent or he's working to actually cover up the exact number of children that are being abused. So it's fascinating to see this lot coming into the mainstream press. And just go and have a look at ACPO. This was back in February, I think, this year, where ACPO's child protection unit was boasting about the radical steps taken to tackle child sexual abuse post-Savile, but actually nothing has happened.
Nothing.
We've only just got Wolf in position, Wolf in sheep's clothing. Is she going to stay as a result of connections with people who've been semi-implicated in abuse themselves? We don't know. We're virtually at the end of 2014, so this is another media lie from ACPO. We did try and speak to them this morning, but they didn't call us back. So, sorry, what have I got there? Yes, the majority of participants did not disclose the abuse at the time because they felt they wouldn't be believed. For those who did tell someone, no action was taken, and many were laughed at or dismissed. And that was going on in Oxford, it was going on in Nottingham. So the police know all this, but are they actually pulling apart the high-level paedophile rings? No, they're warning off whistleblowers like Melanie Shaw, Ben Fellows.
I did see something today that Samantha Morton, the actress, is going to be, the police want to interview her so they can take action against the home that abused her.
Oh, well, she's high profile, isn't she? She looks good on the TV. She's high profile, so this will give them another opportunity to drift public opinion. Right, so let's get on to this. Sky reporting that Bernardo's victim has now blown the whistle on the fact that Bernardo's was blaming victims for their own abuse. It's quite incredible, this. But we've got Mr. Javed Khan, the chief executive of Bernardo's, has condemned the institutions that blame children for their own abuse and called for them to be investigated by the government's independent inquiry. Well, we could say on one hand, what he's suggesting here is that every local authority in the country should be investigated because they're clearly blaming children for their own abuse. Certainly Oxford, that was paramount. That came out in the court cases. But what has this man and his charity been up to? Huge charity. Bernardo's says it's there protecting the children. So what has Bernardo's actually been doing? And of course, a lot of victims say that they're very suspicious about the very charities that say they're there to protect children. So this is the letter that they were talking about, dated back in 15th December 1993, heavily redacted, of course. So this is the meat of it. From talking to, and the situation could have been avoided if, and there's a blank, so we can assume that's the victim, if the victim had not been party to the antics of a group of young men from the local neighbourhood, having consumed a quantity of alcohol and taken 3 Valium. So the blame put on the victim for being in the situation, of course, where the abusers were preying. This has been of some concern to me, given that she's already placed herself and somebody else presumably in danger. Over the past week, young men who were involved in the events of last Monday have continued to call. And in Oxford, the girls in the so-called care homes were warning and warning they were being abused, and nobody listened to them, including safeguarding in Oxfordshire. And of course, they were also saying, what were the charities doing? So it's about time, we think, that the spotlight came on the charities. I'll just move on from Yeah, this is the final page here. Although the victim is now taking a firmer grip on herself and no more incidents have taken place, the aim of this letter is to inform you that there's been some worry in relation to his or her ability to act and think responsibly, leaving herself and others at risk. It's your fault.
Yeah.
It's outrageous, and people are donating their money to charities like Bernardo's. And of course, what's really going on, we'll have a look at this, because today, taking place very, very shortly, 2 p.m, is the court hearing for Melanie Shaw. Yesterday, we didn't believe that Melanie was going to be present, but we now understand that she will be present in court. I'll say she is already present in the court building, but we don't know whether the court hearing will be open to the public or closed. Welcome to the rise of secret justice. So here is an abuse victim. What has Bernardo's done for Melanie Shaw? Nothing, I don't believe. What has NSPCC done? We'll see that in a minute. What's going to happen to this lady? She's going to be put through a secret court. And here's the Ministry of Justice crowing about what a good job they're doing to help victims. Go and have a look at their website. You'll find a map with lots of little dots on it. And when you press the dots, it says what they're doing to help victims. So there's a new Northampton Victim Service, Voice, new professional tailored service. Nottinghamshire PCC is supporting teenage girls affected by domestic violence. Nobody's supporting Melanie Shaw. Oh look, City of London Police is assisting a scheme to assist vulnerable individuals and small businesses in London by helping them to recover from the emotional and financial impact of fraud. Well, that doesn't apply, obviously, to Ian Puddick, who had his business smashed apart by City of London Police. So what we're really looking at here is absolute lies and propaganda from the establishment, helping victims by arresting them and charging them with no evidence. And people are responsible, not the department. So should it be that people focus, for example, on Mr. Chris Grayling, another smug Tory politician? Just extraordinary. This is our email to NSPCC recently, 6th of October. We wanted a phone call to one of the NSPCC executives to ask what help they were going to give Melanie Shaw. They didn't want to give us that phone call, and in the end they did speak to us on the telephone, but it was one of the media team said, well, we're not really interested in Melanie Shaw. We're working with Nottingham City Council, and more or less it's no interest to NSPCC that Nottingham City Council is already saying it's lost child abuse records. So what are these charities up to? I don't know. There we are. That's the sort of language they're using. We don't see a problem in working with Nottingham City Council, and we're not really interested in Melanie.
Shocking.
Brilliant. And then let's have a look at what's really coming through in the mainstream press at the moment.
OK, so the Mail here are discussing author John Grisham, who gave an interview to The Telegraph defending sex offenders, saying they are victims of a legal system gone crazy. He said, we have prisons now filled with guys of my age, 60-year-old white men in prison, wing at Broadcasting House. The plaque should have gone up actually in 2012, but the BBC held back due to damning allegations accusing Peel of having sex with underage girls on numerous occasions on BBC premises. But apparently the BBC is actually now planning to put back up this plaque. In this article, they are highlighting how many other who've never harmed anybody, would never touch a child, Grisham told The Telegraph, but they got online one night, they started surfing around, probably had too much to drink or whatever, and pushed the wrong buttons, went too far and got into child porn. He was then questioned about the fact that viewing child porn fuels child abuse, and he responded to that.
In is the nudging towards the fact that, well, of course, this is all normal and we should make it fully normal at law. And bring us into the BBC, of course.
Stephen Glover here has wrote a piece on how the BBC are preparing to install a plaque of honour for the late DJ John Peel on its John Peel by saying, that sentences should still be lower for people who only download the indecent images of children.
We're now nibbling at the edges here. It's like age of consent, start off with 16 and then 15-year-olds are involved, so we better lower it to 14, and down we go. And now what we seem to have come